Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos. Delighted to be joined now by Alonso Segura Vasi, the Minister of Finance and Economy for Peru. Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you, Udi.
Now, Peru is facing headwinds. We've got a slowdown in China, slowdown in commodity prices, dropping commodity prices. How optimistic do you feel about the future?
I mean, of course, we don't have the same conditions as in the past. Peru had a rate of growth over the past decade of over 6%, but still we've used the good times to build buffers. We have a very strong fiscal position, very low debt, and we're trying to diversify the economy. The economy has been accelerating throughout the year despite this major shock, and we're investing a lot in policies to strengthen human capital, to diversify the economy, as I say, investing in infrastructure. So I would say still we're some of the leaders of the region, Latin America, in terms of growth and development.
In terms of human capital and investing in human capital, tell me some specific stories that you think that are successful for Peru.
We've implemented a major education reform. Just in terms of budgetary allocation, we've increased the share of spending in education by about 1.2% of GDP, which is massive. I mean, we spend very little. We spend a little bit below 3, now we're about 4% of GDP, which is very substantial. But we've introduced several reforms in the education system, including introducing English as a second language, major scholarship programs, a huge infrastructure plan in education, amongst other plans. We've also introduced some of the other reforms are introducing reforms in the civil service to introduce accountability and pay based on performance and evaluations. That's another area we've been working in. And as I mentioned, our plans in infrastructure are very, very ambitious. So we're deploying that. We've awarded about 30 PPPs already during the tenure of this government, and they're going, most of them, into a reconstruction phase. And that's key to developing competitiveness and connecting the country.
How important is trade between Latin American countries important for Peru versus trade, for example, with Asia or the United States?
It depends. It goes country by country. Peru is very diversified in terms of their destinations. It's about a third the US, about a third China, the rest of Asia, about quarter US, quarter Europe, quarter Asia, and a little bit less than a quarter the rest of Latin America. So we are diversified. And what goes to the US, for example, is more of manufactured goods. What goes to Asia is dominated by China, is basically commodities. To Europe is kind of both. So it depends where you go. But Peru is an economy that is very open to trade. We have a preferential agreement signed with countries representing over 92% of world trade and over 3/4 of world GDP. We're part of the TPP, for example, these 12 countries that would form the biggest trade bloc, hopefully to go through Congresses at some point this year. So we're a country that believes in free trade, and we are making our push there as well. Our national diversification plan as well, which seeks to diversify the economy, has 3 main axes, and one of them is basically integrate to global value chains using all these free trade agreements that we've signed and we're negotiating.
Just finally, a word on Venezuela. I interviewed Ricardo Hausman, who's very concerned about Venezuela after the election. And I just wondered what your thoughts were. How concerned are you?
Yeah, I tend not to comment a lot on our neighbors, countries in the region. Of course, it's well known they're going through a very tough economic situation, not to say political probably as well. So they'll have to implement tough reforms. I mean, Peru, a couple of decades ago, had to go through tough reforms, but we're seeing the results now. So you just have to do what you have to do.
Minister, thank you very much for stopping by the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos, and
thank you very much.